Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm your host, Ted Odorico, and normally joining alongside with me here is Legends Tour player and LPGA professional Cindy Miller, but she's running just a little bit late here, so I will just start things off and bring Cindy on board when she's ready. But anyways, welcome to the show. We've got a very special guest coming here in just a little bit, Bissell, who's the VP of Coldwell Bankers commercial golf course sales, and she's also TV executive producer as well as a golf writer and author. She's authored a number of books. Plus, she's also a member of the Golf Writers Association of America and the co-founder of Women in the Golf Industry. And as I mentioned, she authored a couple of, actually I think 3 books, 2 more notable books that in the golf business, Fred Couples' Golf's Reluctant Superstar, which I'm interested to find out a little bit more, and another one as well. But anyways, like I said, welcome to the show. We're live every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Cindy and I, and as I said, Cindy's just running a few minutes behind. She's down in Florida this week. She's doing junior boot camp, which we're going to talk to her a little bit about to start off the program. But thank you for joining us. Just a quick few reminders to everybody that's tuning in this morning. Obviously, you found here. As I said, we're live every Tuesday morning, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on blogtalkradio.com. So you just go to www.com and type / golf, or you can just go up into the search key and type Women of Golf, and that'll bring you to the main page. And obviously, during the live performance, the prominent show at the top is current. But after you want to scan down through the online section, which is down a little bit lower, you can go through any of the episodes that you might have missed, and we certainly would love for you to do that. Also, it's available for download as a podcast through iTunes. So if you go into iTunes.com and go under the podcast section and just type in, again, Women of Golf, that'll take you to all of the previously recorded programs as well. So you can pick them up there if you've missed them here live with us every Tuesday. Again, I want to thank you for joining us. If you're interested in calling into the program anytime during the live broadcast, you can do so by calling area code 347-945-5855. That's 347-945-5855. Or you can email questions or comments about the program to either womenofgolf@gmail.com, and you can also contact us there if you're interested in coming on the program as a guest. Or you can email directly to Cindy or either Cindy or I. My email is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. And, of course, Cindy's is cindy@cindymillergolf.com. So you can reach us there. And actually, if you reach Cindy Miller through her email, cindy@cindymillergolf.com, she's in the process of doing some scheduling right now. So if you're interested in coming on the program, if you're in the golf business, and particularly to ladies out there that feel you have something that you want to share with the rest of the golfing community, we'd certainly have you on the program and join us here on Tuesday mornings. But as I said, Cindy's just a little bit behind this morning, so we'll just give her a little bit longer here. And what I'll do, actually, I think, just to let everybody know a little bit about our guest this morning. As I mentioned, she is a VP of Coldwell Bankers Commercial Golf Course Sales over in Jacksonville, Florida. So she's also down here in the Florida state as well. As mentioned, she's a TV executive producer, golf writer, and author, plus part of the Golf Writers Association of America and a co-founder of the Women of Golf Industry. As I said, she heads up the Coldwell Bankers Commercial National Golf Course Sales. Our family has been in real estate for 50 years, and with 25 years experience in the golf industry, Kathy has specialized knowledge in many golf arenas, including golf course sales, golf writing, television production, as mentioned, and golf public relations. She's also produced over 250 nationally syndicated golf television programs, as well as a dozen high goal polo matches. Very interesting. She was VP Public Relations for a very prestigious golf development and ownership company with top-rated, nationally prominent championship courses that included hosted PGA Tour, USGA, and PGA of America and LPGA events, including the Bob Hope Classic, Bissell Championship. Tongue-tied a little bit this morning. PGA Championship, the Ryder Cup. Both the regular skins and the senior skins game, as well as the Grand Slam and the Chrysler Team Championship, and many, many, many more, including actually the PGA Tour qualifying school. So quite a laundry list of accolades. As I mentioned, she also has authored 3 books, first one being Fred Couples, Golf's Reluctant Superstar, and her other book, Venus on the Fairway, which she co-authored with former LPGA player Debbie Meisterline, I believe it is, Keller, and Championship Swimming, which she co-authored with Olympian Tracy McFarlane Morand. She's also been a consultant for the World Golf Hall of Fame and developed the new exhibits for the museum, proposing the locker room permanent display for inductees and working on displays for a number of inductees, including those for Ben Crenshaw, Bernhard Langer, Tony Jacklin, Tommy Bolt, and Nick Price. And she's also worked on edits for Ben Hogan and Biden Nelson. So, as I said, quite the laundry list of accomplishments here. And so we're looking forward to having her come on the program here. And just to also remind those of you tuning into the Women of Golf, you may also be interested in my program, which I host by myself. Again, my tongue tied, a little tied this morning here on Tuesday morning. Talk Live every Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 6 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's Talk Live. And that's also here on blogtalkradio.com. You just go to blogtalkradio.com and go up in the search key and type Golf Talk Live, and that'll get you there. And some interesting interviews that are certainly notable. As we all know and mentioned on the show here last week, Mr. Billy Casper, who recently passed away just a couple of weekends ago. I interviewed him on November 7th of 2013. I had him for the full Golf Talk Live course, the 2-hour program. I had him on there pretty much for the whole 2 hours and shared a lot. He was involved with a sports hydration drink called 9 Iron with another gentleman by the name of Kent Novus. The two of them joined me, and we talked a little bit about the drink, but also had a great deal of discussion with Billy Casper about his book, The Big Three and Me, which, of course, features Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, and, of course, Mr. Gary Player, all very well-known golfers in the golf industry and very ambassadors of the game. And Billy shared some very interesting stories, and I shared one last week of his meeting, if you will, or helping legendary Johnny Miller as well get into the game, and that he gave Johnny Miller's mother after a speech he'd given at Mormon church. But very interesting man, very sad loss for the industry. And I'm actually in the process of setting up an interview on Golf Talk Live with one of his children, one of his many children, Mr. Byron Casper. He's going to be joining me here in the next upcoming months on Golf Talk Live. So stay tuned for that. I'll announce that as well. All over social media, you get me there at www.facebook.com/Golf Talk Live blog. I update both of the programs there, and certainly very, very glad to do this week in and week out. And as I said, we're just waiting for Cindy here to come on board. But I believe we actually have Kathy here, so I'm going to bring Kathy here on board. Please welcome Kathy Bissell.
Hello.
Good morning, Kathy. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Where's Cindy? Is she stuck in the snow?
No, she actually in Florida as well. She's doing a junior boot camp, and I'm not sure if she got confused with the timing or not, but we'll have to. I guess we'll have to wing it here for a few moments until she comes on board. But anyway, Kathy, thank you. I've already actually gone through and let everybody know your background and that. So I'll then repeating all that. We'll just get into things here while we wait for Cindy. And I'm kind of maybe thinking that Cindy's gotten confused with time. We obviously are the show programs from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I know she's on right now. But I'm actually in Northwest Florida on Central Time, so I'm not sure if maybe got mixed up with them somehow. But as I said, Kathy, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And
did you have a particular topic you wanted to
Kathy,
discuss here?
Yeah, well, actually, what we're going to do, Kathy, I thought what we would do is we'll talk a little bit about, first off, obviously, I know that you're involved with Banker and your VP of golf sales with them. So what I wanted to talk about just a program is what trends, if any, have you noticed in the last few years with golf course sales? Could have given current, what were some of the things that you've seen happen over the last years?
Well, the last 7 or 8 years have been a challenge for many people. Several lenders got out of the business, and they called loans on golf course owners. They wanted them paid off more quickly than when the loans were arranged originally. And that caused a great deal of distress for a number of people, and some largish operators and some medium operators and some small operators. And that inventory has just about worked itself through the market. And so rather than having an enormous number of either bankruptcies or distress sales, now we're to the point where sales are starting to be more fairly valued than they were in the past. And a number of people have reported that they have seen an increase in sale prices. Now, I'm not sure I'm seeing a big increase in sale prices yet, but I'm seeing some increase in sale prices, and I'm getting calls from lenders wanting to do loans and wanting to do refinancing. And that's different than what we've been through the last few seasons.
Right, exactly. And I have a follow-up question to that I wanted to ask you, but I see that Cindy's on board. Cindy, welcome to the Women of Golf show this morning. How are you? Hi, Cindy, are you there?
I am here. I must admit I forgot you. I'm sorry. I'm in the middle of boot camp with my kids here, and I just looked at my phone, and forgive me. We're teaching them what to see whether or not they're linear or nonlinear on the putting green, so forgive me. Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning,
Thank you for joining us. You're saving me here.
That's all right, Cindy. It's entitled. You're a busy lady. We know that, and Cindy. So just relax for a second. As I said, Kathy, I had a follow-up question to that.
Sure.
One of the things that happened, Kathy, is we all know here in the golf industry that one of the things that we noticed here when the recession really sort of took hold was that there was really a big halt on a lot of the new development, especially with some of the golf course communities. Are you still sort of seeing that trend as well, that a lot of big-time developers are a little bit reluctant to want to open up that door again, and are you seeing sort of a different product coming out with the golf course industry?
I think that door is still pretty pretty firmly closed, and the lock is still on it. The only places that are building golf courses, my understanding, are places in China, and even they have had some government-issued slowdowns in a couple of locations. I just have, kind of read a couple of articles here and there with that kind of a mention in it. But business has been good in China for a number of years, and that has kept designers busy. There are not very many things that have been on the planning board for the United States in recent years. I do understand there is supposed to be a lovely new course opening in Nova Scotia, another Ben Crenshaw, Bill Coor design, and obviously by someone who has a great deal of money and they can just invest it in a beautiful golf course in a beautiful location. And people will still do that. There's a surprising number of people who have income available or investment available or family money available, and they choose to invest it in golf, and either for personal desire or for an actual business plan.
Right. I know that obviously there was quite a substantial impact on the golf industry, as I said, when the real estate market started to falter, for lack of better words. Yes. And there were a lot of people, not just the developers, but obviously a lot of individuals that lost their investments in that. So it's certainly understandable that people are a little gun-shy about going down that. Something I've been hearing a lot, and I'm sure you've seen it on your end as well, is sort of new type of model, if you will, of golf is coming up there in addition to the traditional golf as we understand it. A lot of other products. And I'm talking about everything from foot golf to you name it. Are you starting to see an acceptance of that with some of the properties that you're dealing with, where they're looking for other ways to sort of have an income stream coming into the facilities, the current facilities, and facilities?
I have not spoken to anyone personally who has a foot golf operation. I've seen a couple of places who say they have it. And to me, that's the wrong market for developing golf, but I'm not in the business of telling them, how to market their product. I do know that there have been courses. There was a course in Daytona Beach that was sold to some foreign investors a couple of years ago, or within the last 18 months, and they have absolutely, completely turned the golf course operations around, and they've gone from probably less than 20,000 rounds to over 45,000 rounds at that golf course. And so what that means is a good operator can do something, and that's usually the case. There are people
Kathy,
who
what
know
have they
how
done
to
to make that happen?
Well, first of all, it went from being in a fight between owners to being in bankruptcy to being owned by someone and having some property upgrades done to the golf course because the turf was getting in a state of disrepair. And as anybody in the golf business knows, if you have nice grass, people will show up and they'll play, and they may even pay you an extra $5 for the privilege. But if your course looks bad and if things aren't taken care of, which tends to happen when banks own properties, then, it's just hard to generate any additional play at the property. People just don't want to be there. It's kind of, depressing to show up and have a place be, deteriorating before your eyes. And so you want to go someplace that's properly taken care of and where people care about their operation and they're enthusiastic and all that kind of thing. But sometimes it takes money to do that. And so that's why it's tough. It's tough to turn something around. How they do it, I don't know. I'm not an expert in operations. I wish I were. I'd be a gazillionaire if I were an expert in operations, I'm telling you. There are a lot of places,
I think it's, caring about the facility, it takes money to make money, and then you have to make your customers happy.
That's right.
And then I think people talk and say, wow, this place has really turned around. They're great. They're friendly. They like customers.
I think you're absolutely on target with that. But I have never personally operated a golf course, and so I would hate to say I'm an expert on that.
Right.
I understand.
Kathy, also too, and one of the things, and it wasn't just sort of focused on foot golf. There was a lot of other different things they're trying to into the golf industry in order to attract more people to the game. Obviously, golf competition is a little more expensive than some other sports out there. Parents are finding ways of getting access to golf, and I think this is what sort of spawned the creativity to the doors, if you will. What do you see? What do you think in the golf industry coming in as golf design goes? Do you think maybe some of the developers, some of the golfers' properties, as much as we want to see some great abilities, that maybe sell for the average golfer in some?
I lost the last part of that question. For some reason, my connection drops out every now and again.
Yeah, I apologize. I'll sum it real quick. Do you think some of the golf course properties have outpriced themselves a little bit in some cases for the average golfer, that maybe they need to rethink with some of the new development going on?
No, I don't think that's the case at all. I see people racing to the bottom.
It's good to...
And to me, golf is never going to be a low-priced sport. It's not going to be the low-budget option in terms of a sport. And I think people who are in it need to understand that, accept that, and realize that they are dealing with a higher-priced sport than, and I can't come up with something, than taking a basketball to a basketball court and shooting baskets, or the 3-on-3s or the shootouts or YMCA basketball or Little League baseball or something like that. It just costs more to play golf. And so it's a different market, it's a different group of people, and there are enough people out there that if one does outreach, I think the people are still there. There's a gentleman in Charlotte, and I'm sorry, if I known I was going to need to discuss growing the game, I would have found his name again. But our Women in the Golf Industry group looked at his program, and we were trying to figure out a way to help him grow it. He's created a thing called Daddy and Daughter Golf Day, or golf experience kind of thing, where dads bring their daughters out to the golf course and they learn to play golf. And he's been enormously successful with these programs, and every time he has one, he's oversubscribed for it. So I think the people are out there. I think they just are looking for an opportunity or a new way to come into the game, and with the economy being better.
Right, I agree.
That's just my opinion, though.
I tend to agree, too. If you make it,
I agree with that.
Some people might be intimidated by trying to walk out somewhere. They know that it's been an exclusive sport, or that's their opinion. And I believe that if we make it more open and invite people and show them that they can have fun, maybe have a day of free lessons for a few hours and discounted, range events or a clinic or something like that to invite people in and show them how fun and warm and caring you can be, then I think they're definitely going to show up.
People will want to shoot me for saying this, and I hope no one does, but a golf developer I used to work for in California it would be one price for your tee time, and it was not a low price at most of these places, but your range balls were included, and their thinking was hit till you're happy. Stay out there all day and hit golf balls. And they tried to encourage people to come out to the golf course and to play as much and as often and to make it like your second home. And when you do that with people, not only do you get good customers or customers who are repeat customers, you get loyal customers.
Absolutely.
And I know people like to sell range balls, but if there's some way to build that into your fee for playing golf, or your golf and your cart fee, to add on a range ball price, I mean, you have to buy the range balls anyway. So as long as there's enough room for people who want to warm up before they go out and play around, that's going to keep people coming back to your property, I would think. Now, again, not an operator. I just know what I've seen different places.
Right. Kathy, I want to give you a little bit of a couple of the books that you've written. Of course, you've authored a very interesting book. I'm interested to hear about it. This one is, of course, Freddie Couples, Golf's Reluctant Superstar, which is an authorized biography of Freddie Couples. Can you share some things from the book? Obviously, you can't tell everything, but just to share perhaps with our listeners some of the things that most people wouldn't know about Freddie.
Oh, gosh. I wrote it such a long time ago, it's hard to remember. I remember asking Joe LaCava what was, one of the most interesting places Fred got himself, or some way to describe the kind of golfer that Fred is to set him apart from other players. And everybody that if you talk to other players about Fred, they'll tend to say the same thing, and that's his level of creativity. And Joey would just say he would see shots that other people didn't see. And he said, to give you an example, we were on the 5th hole of Augusta National, which is a sort of a slight dogleg left, par 4, and on the left side there are some bunkers, but there's also a kind of a slope down, so you can get yourself in some trouble over there in some trees and what we call generally schmutz, And so Fred had pulled his drive over into some schmutz, but he had a lie, and Joey was saying to himself, he's just going to have to pitch out of here. There's just no way out. And Joey said he saw Fred looking up, and he just kept looking up and looking up and looking up. And all of a sudden Joe realized there was a little hole in between a bunch of the trees, and he says, and he was going to hit the shot through there. And Joey says, my gosh, if he didn't hit it right through the hole in the trees onto the green. And he said that was a shot, the kind of shot that Fred sees that other people don't see. But you also have to have the talent to carry it off.
Yeah, and Freddie certainly does that. Kathy, speaking of the title itself, why do you think Freddie Couples is golf's reluctant superstar? How did you come up with the title, and why do you think that to be true?
That wasn't something I came up with. That's actually a quote from Tom Watson, and that's how he described Fred. And it certainly was true in the late 80s and early 90s, and maybe even today when he shows up. He's just a shy guy, surprisingly.
Yeah, and Freddie's certainly enjoying his time.
Ed, remember the personality reports that we've done? And that would be, clearly an example of Freddie Couples and Jim Furyk and Jason Duffner as the low-key, quiet guy who wants to go hit balls by himself. So, he really doesn't want the limelight. He just wants to do what he wants to do. And look at his golf swing. His golf swing would tell you that he's low-key, relaxed, calm, cool, collected.
He just doesn't like a lot of fuss. And what happens when you're, it's a different level for Tiger Woods, but what happens when you're at the highest level in golf is there's a lot of fuss. And some people, like a Ricky Fowler, his personality allows him to embrace it, and he enjoys it. And, other people don't enjoy it quite so much. So you have to kind of reinvent your personality in order to get a new comfort level. That Mitsubishi electric thing where Fred is always out of his comfort level. Well, believe me, when he had people yelling at him and grabbing at him for autographs and stuff, that was not his comfort level. But, other people are. Arnold Palmer was great at having fans wanting his autograph all the time.
Yeah, and Freddie definitely was not that type, and he also really was not somebody that wanted to be number one in the traditional sense. Some people, that sort of goal for them is to get to be that number one spot in golf. And I don't think, Freddie certainly wanted to win tournaments and wanted to be a prominent player, but titles like number one golfer and, that sort of thing didn't seem to be really in his house. He wanted to have a good time. He played to the best of his ability.
I disagree with you. I think he wanted to win more than people ever knew. I think it was just the attention that comes with it was always difficult for him. But that's my personal opinion. But a lot of us aren't wired to step on a stage and go with it. Like Greg Norman, I don't know what his personality is like because I don't know Greg terribly well, but he certainly is a good showman. And he seemed to embrace his victories and embrace his success and did a lot for the game in Australia as well as the rest of the world. But they're just different personality types. That's what makes it interesting.
I always enjoyed watching Freddie and some of the quieter players, if you will. Kathy, you also wrote another book called Venus on the Fairway, which is a golf instruction book for women, which you co-authored with LPGA professional Debbie Steinbach. How does this book differ from some of the other instructional books out there? Obviously, it's geared more for the women's market, but what's more unique about this than some of the traditional golf instruction books on the market?
Most of this is Debbie's thinking, and after I wrote the book about Fred, the publisher was interested in a women's book, and I told them I just had very little experience with the LPGA or the women's aspect of the game because that was the truth. And Debbie is somebody I knew from when I was living out in La Quinta, California. She used to represent the company I worked for, and so I met her through that association. And she was in the North Florida area for an afternoon or the day, or she'd done something up at Amelia Island. So I picked her up, and we went someplace and had like an iced tea and watched the ocean for a while. And then I took her back to the airport because she had to catch a flight out. And she was telling me about some new clinics that she and Hollis Stacy had been working on together, and new approaches that they'd been using to teach women. Because she said, when I teach men the same way that I was taught, in the same way we always teach clinics, she said, my women aren't having any fun. And she said, so we had to come up with something. And she had intuitively discovered what research at that time was showing, which was basically the reiteration of that men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Mars,
yeah. So,
yeah, that's true. That's true, Kathy.
and so she turned that idea into, kind of meshed the new things that she had learned to do with that concept. And to give you an example, a lot when I grew up, you were taught to put your feet shoulder width for your stance. And for men, that's great because their shoulders are wider than their hips. And so You're trying to provide stability in a golf swing with your stance. And if you are trying to make a turn, you want to have stability that doesn't go out of balance through the entire swing. But typically, women's shoulders are not the widest part of their body. Their hips are. And so they were being told to have a stance that was probably too narrow for their, moving their entire body weight around an axis. And so they would never really be on balance in a golf swing, and it was easy for them to get off balance in a golf swing. So it's weird things like that. It's women have a different angle in our elbows, and we have a lot more rotational ability from our elbows to our wrists than men have. And the easiest way to see that is when women stand up and hold their arms down at their sides. Their palms are probably going to point in toward their thighs. And men's hands, often the thumb will point toward the thigh and the palms will be pointing backwards because men don't have that same rotational flexibility. Now, that's good, except that when you're taught to play golf, they say just put your hand out in front of you to grab the grip. Well, a woman can have her grip on, with her hands one way, but her arms can be moving, rotating a whole lot more than a man's. So it's easier for us to mess up a grip, if that makes any sense to you. And these are the kinds of things that she discovered on her own and then went and visited with some physiology and, I guess, kinesiology kinds of people at UC Irvine to find out if she was, a mad golf instructor or if this had any bearing in fact. And she was right. And there are several more things that are like that. Men have to work on being flexible. Women are innately more flexible.
And it's interesting. Right. And it's interesting to mention that there's some very interesting points that I'm sure a lot of people realize out there, that there are a lot of differences other than some of the obvious between men and women. And we had a guest back last year, Karen Palacios Jensen, who is very prominent in the golf industry, and she talked about when she was here that this year in 2015 that the LPGA, in fact, I think they started it last year, I take that back, that they were going to be introducing some new ways of offering to the instructors ways of teaching women that obviously are going to differ from men. So I'm sure some of these ideas that Debbie and you have talked about were going to be introduced to some of the LPGA teach professionals out there. Because you're right, there is a lot of difference both in how really to approach things, but traditionally, as you indicated, most instructors are sort of taught one way, and it was traditionally towards men because it was for a long number of years it was a male-dominated sport. But now that more and more women are getting into it, especially professional women, they had to obviously rethink that. So that's very interesting. Now, Kathy, are both of these books still available in print? Are you able to still get a copy? And if so, where can we get our hot little hands on one?
I think you can maybe find them on Amazon. Here and there. I mean, it's tough to find them. Once you get through your printing run, sometimes they go out of print. But I think I've still been able to order them on Amazon, just because they have such a wide reach. I don't know that you can go to your Barnes and Noble or Books A Million and get them.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. Now, obviously, the other thing I wanted to give you to talk about is you were the executive producer for the golf show. Can you tell us about that? And is it still running now, or has it?
It is not still running. I wish it were. I currently own the rights to the program with 4 tour players. We produced it from, I want to say, approximately 1987 or 88 to 1996, 97. And it was kind of golf before the Golf Channel. We had interviews with the key players of the era. We always went to the PGA Merchandise Show to find out what was new, so people could see the product and hear from the manufacturers. We had rules information. We'd take situations that had happened on the PGA Tour, and we had Mark Russell typically, although we had other rules guests, go over rulings that had actually happened. Like, I guess it was the time Greg Norman's ball ended up on the other side of a hedge on the tee at Westchester, and they had to figure out where he needed to play his next shot from. But there are all kinds of ruling craziness that just abounds. It's surprising how many things happen like that. We had history segments, and then we would have instruction from our staff of golfers, and it included, I'm going to leave somebody out, so I apologize if I do. It included Fred Couples, Tom Pertzer, Gil Morgan, Terry Deal, who played on the tour for 10 years, and they were kind of regulars. And then we had some information from Jeff Sluman, John Cook, a guy named Robin Freeman, Bob Tway once, and a few other people sporadically. Oh, Dave Stockton and Dave Stockton Jr. So, and their information was, and Wayne Grady also, and their information was really wonderful, and I certainly learned a lot doing those tips.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Oh, I remembered one more, the late John Brody.
Very good. Kathy, if somebody, if you, obviously with respect to golf course sales and so forth, how can they go about doing that? Do you have email and or numbers, or how can they get in touch with you?
The easiest way is if you just do a Google search for buying a golf course. Our company will probably come up. It's Coldwell Banker Golf Course Sales, and the website is cbcbgolfcoursesales.com or kbgolfcoursesales.com, and my email address and phone numbers are on that. And there are also a lot of properties that we can't put online. They're private sales, they're confidential sales. People don't want everyone to know their golf course is being sold, and that's a great deal of the transactions happen that way.
Sure, and that's understandable. A lot of times I know visiting a golf course and you've seen management change and you've seen ownership change, and you kind of think, wow, what happened here? And it all sort of went behind the scenes, but that's understandable. But Kathy, if you wanted to leave the listeners with some thoughts about what you're seeing happening in industry, and that, what would that be, and where do you see the direction going now in your market? Where do you see things changing? What's going to be sort of the next trend, if you will, in golf courses?
Oh, that's a broad question. I would say that with people, because people are tending to have a little bit more disposable income, we see in Florida, which is where I live, that people are starting to take vacations. And for those of us in Florida who get to Orlando a couple times a year, you can tell the economy of Florida by what's being built in Orlando. And we had 2 or 3 years in there where just nothing happened. But now where I am in Northeast Florida, it's a lot of building happening again, homes in infill areas. Nocatee is a huge development, and they'll eventually have a golf course there, but they don't quite have enough homes to do that yet and feel confident about it. What I think is going to happen is it's just going to be increased play for everyone for a couple of years, because play fell off with people not going and taking their vacations, or people dropping out of their clubs, or people changing the club they went to in order to keep playing golf during a bad economy. Once people feel better and more secure in their jobs, they're going to go back to doing what they love to do. And you cannot stop an avid golfer. Sure. You just can't. The rest of the people who aren't avid, well, they're going to come and they're going to go. And that's just the way golf has always been and the way it's going to be. Now, everyone seems to say, oh, my goodness, we're not going to have golfers after the baby boom. Well, I looked at the demographics in terms of population size, the next chunk of people through the population, and they're just now getting to the age where people start playing golf, which is in their 40s and 50s.
Right.
And there's another group of people the same size as a baby boom coming right after that. And so I think golf is going to be in better shape than is generally reported.
Well, that's
just based
great
on
news.
the population.
I agree. I think I think there's been a lot of panic for nothing in the golf industry. Really, the main change happens obviously in private. A lot of them have certainly felt the pinch, and I just think it's only because a lot of people said, more people are vacationing. They want to travel. They want to be able to have some different experiences. So I can certainly see how the private courses maybe are feeling more of a pinch than some of the resorts and that. But interesting, Kathy. And Cindy and I want to thank you for joining us this morning on Women of Golf. We apologize a bit for some of the technical issues here, but thank you for joining us and sharing some great information and some insight with respect to not only golf course sales, but also with the books that you've authored. And thanks for joining us on the Women of Golf.
I enjoyed it. Happy to do it anytime in the future.
Thank you so much, Kathy.
Well, we appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, you have.
Bye-bye.
All right, thanks, Kathy. Bye-bye. Well, Cindy, I thought since we had a few minutes here, I'd give an opportunity. We're going to do this at the beginning, but you weren't able to come on board right away. You're obviously down in Florida here. Welcome to Florida.
Thank you. A little better here
and
than
I know you're
today.
Bless your heart. Just tell us, a few minutes left, so we've got some time. Just a little bit about you're doing a junior boot camp. Tell us a little bit about that and what some of the things you're working on.
Well, it's funny. I was checking our alignment on the putting green. What Alan and I have done for probably 20, 25 years is we, in the wintertime, take people to Florida. And one year, probably 6 or 7 years ago, we had some kids that wanted to join us for boot camp who are committed, dedicated, and serious about getting better. And so with that, they were mixed in with some oldies, the goodies. And the year after that, we decided that it might be best if we have a junior-specific boot camp. So we bring committed, dedicated, serious players who really want to get better down to Orange County National for 4 days. We have breakfast in the morning. We teach them on the range, the putting green, the chipping. We have lunch, and then we play 18 holes with them every afternoon. So
wow.
Today is day 3. Tonight we're going to the Golf Channel. I happen to have a daughter and a son who work at the Golf Channel as producers, and we're going to go watch Golf Central live. So the kids are pretty excited, and their parents and their brothers and sisters get to come. We always come during this particular week because the kids have off because of President's Day. It's the February break, so they're not taking extra time off from school. And a lot of times their parents and their other siblings will come, and they'll go to Universal or go see Mickey while I'm making them bleed through their gloves on the golf course.
Well, that's fantastic, and I think that's great, and I think that makes it interesting for a lot of golfers out there that want to really kind of get not so much serious about their game, but they want to take it up to another level. I think doing boot camps is much more advantageous than sort of just doing the traditional lessons of going to the range and hitting. You're sort of bringing all aspects of the game in, and you're kind of throwing a little road trip, if you will. I know we drive down there, but kind of a road trip experience where they're getting out of their normal elements up there in the windy part of the United States right now, up in Buffalo, and coming down to Florida here where the climate's much warmer and more conducive to some great golf. So how often do you do boot camps, Cindy? How often do you try to do them?
Well, we do one junior boot camp per year, and then we do a lot of playing lessons in Buffalo. And we have some kids that come from, out of state to work on their game during the summer. But the boot camp, the beautiful thing about being able to play with someone is you can be able to create and produce a golf shot on the driving range, but are you able to control your emotions and make wise decisions and pull the trigger while you're out playing? And, you can have the best swing in the world, but if you can't produce it when you need to, it does you no good. So that's the beautiful part about having the kids come down and spend 4 days. I get to see what their tendencies are. I get to see when they lose focus and get exhausted and need to take a break, or their hands are really hurting, or they just need to, walk away for a minute.
Yeah, and that's good. It kind of gives them almost, because as you said a few moments ago, you're playing every afternoon, so it kind of gives them almost like a little bit of a tournament, like the pros do. They're playing on a daily basis for several days, and that kind of tests their stamina, if you will, if they can handle that, and that certainly helps to sort of spruce up the mental side of golf as well as the physical side. But and obviously, Cindy, I'd be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about the Legends Tour as well. Are you going to be up in any of the upcoming events? And so when are you going to be back on tour?
Well, I did not get any event in Phoenix. The last time I looked, I was 10th alternate. So I am not going to fly. I did not get a sponsor exemption. There's a lot of kids that are players. They're not kids anymore. There's a lot of players that live in Phoenix that, needless to say, they deserve sponsor exemptions because that's where the Walgreens event is. So I'm practicing and playing here to improve my game. The next event as well is the Patty Bird Chico's Charity Classic, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to play, but I think I might come down anyway. And Ted, I think we should do our show live from the Chico's event, and that's in April in Fort Myers. So I've been talking to Chico's people, and we might be there doing our show live, which would be great because it's a combination of Symetra Tour players and Legends Tour players. So it would be a great opportunity.
You certainly would be. That'd be fantastic, and we'll certainly talk more about that. But Cindy, as I've said so many times, Cindy, you just have so much on your plate. And how do you find balance with everything that you do? And I'm talking obviously not so much personal, but golf. I mean, you obviously want to be competitive still, but you want to focus on the teaching aspect in that. How do you mentally prepare yourself for each day and say, okay, I've got to go out and do this, and then next week I'm going to be going to, whether it be Phoenix or Fort Myers or wherever it is that you're going, how do you sort of find balance and not get yourself overwhelmed with everything that you do?
Well, I think the biggest issue is realistic expectations. I think that's huge, and it's no matter how old you are, you can learn new things. And I normally would be sad that I didn't get in the tournament in Phoenix, but I have to stop and realize that the reality of the issue is the fact that I'm not Michelle McGann, I'm not Nancy Lopez, I'm not Rosie Jones, I'm not Jane Blaylock, I'm Cindy from Silver Creek, and for who I am and what I've done in golf, I'm so grateful for everything I've learned. It doesn't mean I can't get better. But if I wanted to play full-time, I don't have the time to invest to work on my game to improve that much. So I'm going to try to get as good as I can. If there's a Pro-Am opportunity, they're probably going to invite me because I'm friendly and I help the amateurs. But I'm not the competitive Hall of Famer, if you will. I think you need to be able to look in the mirror and see the reality of who you are and what your gifts and talents are, and then you have to be able to, once you have those realistic expectations, you say, okay, well, what am I able to do and how can I do it? And once you organize what your goals are, possibly, then you say, okay, well, I'm great at doing the corporate clinics and helping people feel better. I was fortunate enough to be at the Ace Group Classic Friday. And I did a clinic with 20 people from the Ace Group, and there were 4 men with their wives that happened to come to the clinic, and their wives were petrified to learn to play, and they had an absolute riot. And, I got an email immediately and posted stuff on Twitter, one of the wives, and was like, oh, my God, that was the best lesson I ever had. So that's my gift and talent, and I still like to compete, but I'm not the star player that I wish I would have been. I have different gifts. So if you're not able to look in the mirror and see the reality, then you're in delusion land, and I'm not going to be in delusion land anymore.
Yeah, and actually, something it's made me think of that. Speaking of competitions, of course, Sydney was on Big Break on the Golf Channel. For those of you tuning into the program, I'd be remiss. I forgot to mention this when we were on last week, but a few weeks ago on my other program, Golf Talk Live, I interviewed somebody that I'm sure you'll know, Mr. Kelly Murray, who was also on the program, and he wanted me to say hello to you. And
he's a great guy.
He was very interesting, quite the interesting storyteller, and I used to think that I talked a lot, but he actually talks more than I do, I think. But very interesting. I had a great time, and he wanted me to reach out and say hello to you, Cindy, and say that he wanted to connect sometime and catch up with everything that's going on. So hopefully you'll get an opportunity to do that. But he mentioned about Big Break, of course, when he was on the program, and that you guys did the reunion show, and just said enough good things about you, Cindy Miller. Exactly what we all know, that you're certainly a great competitor, but also a fantastic ambassador to this game on the teaching side as well. So thank you, Cindy, for all that you do. And we know that you're going to keep going. And I'm going to let you go here. I'm going to close out the program just 2 or 3 minutes early because I know you've got to get back to the boot camp there and continue on. But thank you, Cindy, for all you do.
Sounds good.
And I will see you back here next week. All right.
Great,
see you next week.
Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Okay. That was, of course, my co-host on the program, LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and also a member on the Legends Tour, which is the seniors division of the LPGA players. A lot of greats, and she named quite a few of them out there. And of course, Jane Blaylock heads that up as the president CEO of the Legends Tour, and she's on the show many, many times, and always welcome to come back. Just to remind everybody that we are live every Tuesday from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Eastern Standard Time here on blogtalkradio.com. Also a special thank you to Kathleen Bissell, who was on the show as our special guest today. She was is the VP for Coldwell Banker, commercial golf course sales, and golf writer, author, and just so many other many talents. And thank you, Kathy, and again, apologize for a little bit of background noise there. I know Cindy, being on the course there, was probably picking up a little bit of background noise on her phone. But anyways, we enjoyed having you on. You're certainly welcome to come back on the show. Thank you very much, Kathy. But we also want to thank all of you, the listeners around the world, for tuning into the broadcast. We greatly appreciate not only the support from you listeners, and also the guests that come on and share their time with us each and every week. Don't forget to tune in every week, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on blogtalkradio.com's Women of Golf. On behalf of Cindy Miller and myself, thank you very much. God bless everyone, and we'll see you next week here on the Women of Golf.